Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Before I Do, the show that shares with you everything that you should do before saying I do. It is our responsibility. It is our job. It is our honor to help you facilitate courageous conversations on dating and relationships. So whether you are single, whether you are interested in being married, don't know if you want to be married, you are tuned into the right show for you.
Yes, so this is Before I Do with my husband, my boyfriend for life. And we will ask you some questions tonight. This show is meant to be interactive, yes. And so when we pose the speak now or forever hold your peace questions, we would love for you to weigh in. We want to hear about your experiences. And you might be saying, Charmaine, Walter, what is this show about? Okay, what is this whole A-E-I-O-U? You know, it might be the
Well, remember that? Well, you remember growing up, that's how they taught us our vowels.
That's right.
A-E-I-O-U, and sometimes
wow.
Exactly. So A-E-I-O-U. And so that actually stands for various personality types. So ambivert, extrovert, introvert, omnivert, and which are a few terms that I am learning about as well. That's one of the gifts and the things that I really appreciate about this show. There's a great saying that says that the teacher learns twice, because you have to learn it to teach it. And then when you teach it, you actually learn again when you start receiving feedback and different perspectives. And so this is definitely one of those situations and times for me.
And as our mama say, Mama Francis, just so y'all know, a little trivia, okay? So Walter's mom is named Francis. My mama named Francis. We both got a mama named Francis. But as mama would say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So if you are ready to learn something tonight, if you're ready to definitely delve into the topic tonight, definitely the teachers are ready. And so we appreciate you for being a student. But in going in this tonight, why are we doing this topic? I mean, we are into 2023, just a few weeks in. Most people are really trying to dig or be intentional. Everyone's talking about being intentional. That is the word, being intentional. And one thing we want you to do is we really want you to think about who are you? Do you know you, right? And so we're constantly in this space of introspection, right? And we want to know more and more about ourselves. So we wanted to do this show because whenever we take on a new client or whatever, we really often push understanding yourself so that other people, you can be literally have a PhD in you so you can support other people. And so one thing we want to start off with is a quote. It says, there is little difference in people, but that little difference makes a big difference. And that quote is by W. Clement Stone.
Where's the bell? That needs the bell.
I'm gonna give you the bell.
No. I don't. That's your thing. But I just am an advocate for that. But that quote is so pertinent, and it is so true, because again, we're all members of the human race.
Yes.
And so with Charmaine and I, we do a lot of work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. We know that those are really hot button topics right now. Everybody is talking about diversity and equity and equality. And no, we don't want equality. We want equity and inclusion and things of that nature. But the bottom line is, as humans, there are a lot of similarities that we have, but the differences that make us unique are very vast.
Yes.
And so, it's important for us not to see our differences as things that divide us, but to see them as strengths that actually unite us, because that means that there are some things that you're able to do that I may not be able to do. There are some unique perspectives that you have that I may not have, and there are some things that I may be able to see that you aren't. So when we come together, we have a more comprehensive picture and we can do a lot more.
Yes, I mean, with our clients, we want our clients to know, first of all, uniquenesses are a powerful thing. When we talk about diversity, it's not about what makes us different, but what makes us unique, right? And how together we're more powerful. You're given a fingerprint for a reason, right? And so we love to talk about your fingerprint. What is your fingerprint? What is the uniqueness that you bring to the table? And when you're talking about expectations, boundaries, valuing yourself, can you put a voice to it? And in a relationship, if you can't do that in the relationship with yourself, how are you going to do that in the relationship with a person and a human being who's really trying to enter into a life story with you? And so with that, I want to open up actually with a reading today. And so This is something very powerful. It says our personalities play a central role in our love lives, and our personalities play a central role in how we shape our communications, how we give and receive affection, whether we tend to show up early, well, or late, or whether we like routine or variety. In short, couples love the way they do in great part because of their genetic disposition. This allows us to say pretty much your genes, along with the environment you were raised in, shape your desire to give and receive love in particular ways. And when two people marry or they're dating, they combine their individual genetic makeups. Personality differences are inevitable. I will say it again. Personality differences are inevitable. And that's going to get the bell. So it's really important. It says, because personalities determine what we say and when we say it, what we do or don't do, and why we do or say anything at all.
So are you saying that even if I decide not to burn my list? Let's say I have my list, right? You said to burn. No, I ain't burning my list. If I keep my list and I get a person
your list of expectations.
If I get someone that has everything on that list, you're saying that there still may be some challenges as far as when it comes to our personality types and interacting.
Because every couple is unique. I mean, again, and that's another thing too. We look at other couples, and I mean, there's been times where people are like, man, I thought you guys were, when I share testimony or share something that Walter and I, we've gone through and we've overcome it. We've gone through it, right? We had some challenges, but we went through it, right? We didn't fight each other. We worked together to fight the problem, right? And there's been times where I've shared some of those things and, just to encourage another couple. And they're like, man, I thought you guys were a power couple. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the what? And I says, well, what is a power couple? And then they would say, well, that perfect couple. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, if that's your definition, we're definitely not a power couple if power couple equals perfection. Because we're not, first of all, we're not aspiring for perfection, right? Our goal is to perfect the work in us, right? But we know we didn't come into the relationship as perfect beings. We plug into our power source, and that makes us a power couple.
Yeah, our goal is authenticity.
Absolutely.
Our goal is for us to show up for one another and everywhere that we go in ways that are genuine and that are specific to who we are.
And so with that, we're going to usher us right into our show, which talks about different personality types. It is really important when you're dating someone or if you are married. You could be in a marriage and we're 20 years into the marriage. That person is not the same person they were when you guys started dating or when you first got married. If you're 20 years in, you have evolved and your partner has evolved. And so sometimes it's good to do a nice checkup.
Yep.
Right?
Newsflash, things are going to change. Whether you get married or not, things are going to change over time. That is the nature of life.
That's right. I'm going to ring the bell for that, for change. Because we say we won't change until it shows up, until it knocks on the door. All right. So opening up this show, before I do the A-E-I-O. So let's start with, you want to start with I? We're not going to go in order. So
let's start with the I.
We're going to start with the I.
I think we start with the I because that's the one that most people are familiar with when it comes to introverts.
Okay, so let's start with it. So an introvert, just so you know, an introvert is... Are you going to ask a question?
No. I'm going to pull it up so people can see it.
Got it. All right. So to define an introvert prefers to be in minimal stimulating environments, and they tend to go inward to recharge. Notice how I'm talking because I can relate, right? They're often best on their own or in select company. So this is the individual. They don't need 1 million friends on Facebook, right? They can have 5 really deep friends that they enjoy their company, right? Introverts also tend to have a low social desire and often withdraw from social activity. Why? Often because social activity may drain an introvert. An introvert has very limited energy capacity. And so sometimes an introvert, they're going to preserve their energy at all costs. So going to, I don't know, a jazz fest where there's 2,000 people there, that might not be as appealing as to going out for coffee or drinks with about 6 or 7 friends of theirs. Introversion is related to social energy. It goes back to energy, how you maintain your energy, how you gain energy, and how you preserve energy. So introverts, their goal, typically their interest is they always are looking at, man, how can I preserve my energy?
Absolutely. So next we have extroverts. And again, these are the two primary ones that when people think of personality types, we immediately categorize them in introverts and extroverts. So extroverts are re-energized from interacting with others and engaging with the external world. It is a personality that is often characterized by expressing and outgoing patterns of behavior. These are people that are extroverts that they tend to be very talkative, they're sociable, they're active, they're warm. These are the individuals that during COVID, they were going crazy because the whole idea of having to having to quarantine and not be around other people and to interact, that not having that ability, that really frustrated them. And so there was a really great comic book meme where you have an introvert and an extrovert that's in a room, right? And one is like, and this is during quarantine, and one is sitting at a desk and they're writing and they're all calm, and the other person is like at the window, like pulling their hair because they're just so anxious to get out and talk to somebody and interact. So notice that we're talking a lot about energy. And when it comes to personality types, if you're an introvert or extrovert, it all goes back to where you draw your energy from. For those of us who are introverts, we draw our energy from that alone time, from that downtime. Charmaine, what's interesting about us is that we both are introverts, but how we recharge, even when it comes to that seclusion, is very different. I'm very quiet. I don't like a whole lot of noise. I don't like a whole lot of light. I like it cold, quiet, and dark when I'm sleeping or when I'm just trying to recharge my mind. This one over here,
the opposite.
I mean, music blaring, TV turned up, stuff all over the place, but in solitude.
Yeah.
So again, it is, even though we're both introverts in that way, the energy and the way that we recharge can be vastly different, even within our commonality as it relates to us being introverts.
Now, there's one thing that I do want to say, though, about introverts and extroverts, and something that is very powerful, right, to know. Because we are in a season of really, depression is, there's a lot of individuals suffering from depression, right? And some individuals, it's at a chronic, it's at a really a clinical phase, a chronic phase. And in others, it might just come in small spurts. So when it comes to introverts, while they love that quiet time by themselves, they can really appreciate that. It is really important for introverts. And I don't know, introverts tend to have friends who are extroverts, because you need that balance. But if you're an introvert and you are spending too much time by yourself and not really engaging with other people, that can be a challenge. It can really put you in a place of becoming depressed.
And on the opposite side of that, if you are an extrovert, and you may draw your energy from being social and interacting with other people, it's very easy for you to lose sight of who you genuinely are, because you find yourself around so many different personalities and in various settings, and your energy is bouncing all over the walls. And so it's very easy to lose track of your personality and who you are, and really understanding how you're growing and evolving and changing. So just as introverts need balance as relates to outgoing and being able to get out, it's very important for extroverts to also have that balance, to be able to withdraw and pull inward, so they can have that time for that inventory, to really do that self-reflection of how they're growing, evolving, and changing.
And I want to stretch that, because this is where, when we talk about relationships, this is where it can get sticky. So let's say, a loved one passed away, and my partner who I'm dating, Or, if we're married, my spouse, right? I'm grieving, I'm grieving the loss of someone. I want you to think about, how do you usually support others when they are grieving a loss of an individual? Do you push in? Do you go by their house? Do you sit with them? Do you call? Or do you pause, meaning I just don't do anything? Or do you pull back?
Mm.
Do you give them their space to really process what they're going through? These are some of the challenging things we go through in relationships with other individuals. We are often approaching them thinking how, what would I want to occur, right? If I'm grieving and I'm sad, I would want some space. I want to be by myself. The other person's thinking, no, if I'm sad and I'm grieving, I would want other people around me, flooding me with love, flooding me with, with their energy and all of that. And then you have other people who they're like, look, I just want a balance of that. I don't want too much and I don't want too little, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need to know that you at least care, call, text, something, right? And then the other end, it's like, no, I do need a little bit of quiet. And so that brings us to our third personality type,
Mm-hmm.
which is an ambivert.
Mm-hmm.
So an ambivert is an individual who they are literally right there in the middle between being an extrovert and an introvert, and they would be right in the middle. So they exhibit qualities of both introvert and extrovert. They can flip into either depending on their mood, the context, and the goals that they have. And pretty much the clue to ambiversion lies in the prefix ambi, and that's a Latin, and it has Latin origins, right? And it means two of a pair or both. So they have this dual role. Yeah, they have this dual role, and their energy level is kind of in the middle, So they're not too far, extrovert, but they're not too far introvert. These are the people that they're the balance in the room. They're the balance in the room. They can often, when you have an extreme extrovert, I mean, you are just the life of the party. You're talking or whatever. Then you got the extreme introvert over there in the corner, people watching. This is the individual that helps to merge and create that harmony between both worlds. And so, as we're talking about these personality types, we want you to think about, how do you show up in your relationships? Do you find yourself, are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Or are you an ambivert? Do you find yourself, no, I think I'm a pretty good balance. There's times where I do need quiet time to recharge. There's times where I do get fueled and I get my energy by being around other people. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And so this is where, for me, this was very enlightening, because even though I'm an introvert, there are times where I really enjoy being outgoing and being around people. But with ambiverts, because they're right in the middle, there's this duality that they have. And so they're fed both internally, but they also create the external as well. So for ambiverts, they can often be characterized as outgoing introverts, or an introvert who can be outgoing in certain situations and around certain people, or when they absolutely need to, or they can be known as antisocial extroverts. So they're out and they're out in social settings, but they're not necessarily the social butterfly going from person to person, talking like a couple of the friends and people we know, or they can be known as social introverts. So a person who can become extroverted as needed. So for those of us who are in the business world, where networking and going to certain social events are a part of our professional career, we can operate in those particular arenas. But when we're done, we're done. We need to go home. We need to sit down, be quiet, and recharge.
And I love this image, guys. Look at this image, right? And so if you had to think about what it would look like if it was a battery, symbolic of a battery, right? You got the introvert is on red. They are in the preservation process. It's like, I'm preserving my energy. And so, are you worth my energy? Hello, right? They don't do all the small talk. Is this conversation worth me even using my air right now? Is this friendship worth the energy I'm investing, right? Introverts ask these questions because they definitely have to preserve their energy. And extrovert, they have a lot of energy to give off, right? And so They are, and they're fueled when they're around other people who inspire them, right? And then the ambivert, they're just right there in the middle. So they have that half battery. It's not over, it's not completely full, but it's not completely empty as well. These are those, really balanced individuals that show up in the room.
Absolutely.
So, do we have a question? We want to know.
We actually had a comment. We actually had a person that just wanted to let us know that they were here. So Alicia said that she's tuned in. So Alicia, thank you so much for joining us this evening. But absolutely, if you have a question or a comment, be sure to put it in the chat. And then the last of the personality types, we have talked about introvert. We talked about extrovert. We mentioned ambivert, but there's also an omnivert. Now, omnivert can be understood as hopping from one social personality to the other. So they are actually extremists. So they go from introvert and they can move all the way over to extrovert. So they can be outgoing and quiet, fearless and shy. These are people who they give you social whiplash because you never know what you're going to get. Exactly. And part of the reason why is because they adapt to the environment that they are in. So they can oftentimes be social chameleons.
Yes.
And so even again,
but there is no middle.
Yeah.
They're not an ambivert because they don't have that kind of
that balance.
It is they are only operating in extreme.
And it's situational. So it's situational. And this was, again, one that also challenged me as well, because as an artist, many people that observe and interact with me on the artistic side, they automatically assume that I am an extrovert by nature. And I actually am not. And so as we were studying these, I began to think about, well, I know I'm an introvert. I test as an introvert, but maybe I'm more of an omnivert.
All right, and let's go ahead and give you guys a formal definition of what an omnivert is. All right, omniverts can be understood as hopping from one social personality to another. Again, we already said they are extreme ends of the spectrum, right? It is pretty much they're out there. They have high energy or low energy, but there's no in between.
Absolutely. So with that, what we want to do is we want to go into our first Speak Now question of the night. And that question is, are you an introvert, an extrovert? Are you an ambivert or omnivert? So which one are you? And have you found yourself more romantically compatible with partners that have the same designation as you or a different one from you? They say that opposites attract.
Do they?
I mean, in certain situations, they absolutely do, because we need someone that complements us. And so for you, are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Are you an ambivert? Or are you an omnivert? And if so, do you find yourself more compatible romantically with individuals that share your same designation or that may be the opposite designation? All right, you all. So we're going to have you all to ponder that, and we're going to take a brief commercial break. Be sure to put your questions and your comments and your answers to the first Speak Now question in the chat, and we'll be right back with more Before I Do.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to Before I Do. Tonight, we are talking about A.E.I.O.U. We're talking about personality types, ambiverts, extroverts, introverts, and omniverts. So learning a whole lot when it comes to the interaction of these different personality types.
Yes, we already established that every couple is unique. You bring your uniqueness. Your partner brings their uniqueness. There is very rarely another couple like you. And so that's why even it's important to make sure that you work with professionals, because you can go to your friends and ask for friendship, ask for relationship advice, but the reality of it is while they can impart their wisdom, they can impart their experiences and even the wisdom that they have is uniquely tied to the dynamics of the relationship and relationships they have been in. Your relationship with your partner is uniquely different. So it is important to, first of all, how well do you know you, right? And then how well does your partner know themselves? And so that conversation can be a lot richer, a lot deeper, and you guys can definitely support and growing in your relationship in having these conversations.
And speaking of relationships and partners, our first speak now question of the night is: are you an introvert, an extrovert, an ambivert, or omnivert? And have you found yourself romantically compatible with partners with the same designation or a different one? I know for me, I would say that in my past, I found myself best compatible with people who are introverts. I didn't like being necessarily in a relationship with somebody that was outgoing and that was, that liked being on the scene and all the time. That just, for me, that was it. Maybe some of it was my immaturity, maybe it was my insecurity, but just the idea of having just alone time and us doing things where it's just the two of us and kind of quiet, and in that way was what I was always most comfortable with. But if we're going to be social, we either do it together or it's done in moderation when we're apart. Not somebody that's just, again, wants to go out all the time. I found that to be a bit much.
Now, that's funny because when we got together, I thought literally that's who you were. Because you were always the one. I know it's like, ooh. I thought you were the one in the relationship. Like you were constantly like, well, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And I'm like, we can hang out at the house and watch TV. And I know y'all are probably like, no, Charmaine, you're not that boring person. The one that always want to stay home and chill. And I know I'm not that exciting. Like, and it took him years to like believe that I'm like, cool, well, that's just hanging out. Yeah. And so, but I thought that if anything, you were going to get bored in our relationship because you always wanted to go out somewhere. If a new restaurant opened, it's like, oh, let's go to the new restaurant. And I'm like, no, let's wait for 6 months to see if any food poisoning or anything goes down at the restaurant to, trust but verify. Yeah.
Well, again, it was those exploratory things, but being able to do it with someone. So again, that's where for me, that the whole idea of the ambivert and omnivert, like the idea of being social, but doing it with intention with someone.
Got it.
Not just going out doing it on my own.
And with anyone.
Absolutely right.
Got it.
Because it's very important to have the right company, because that can definitely impact your ability to be able to enjoy whatever it is that you're purposing to do.
Agreed.
So I was trying to give you a compliment as far as we're trying to do these different things with you, because I think that you're someone that I can enjoy those things with.
But I thought that you were scared because you used to say, I don't want you to get bored. In the relationship. And I used to be like, oh, he's so sweet.
Oh, yeah,
but I'm
absolutely.
not going to get bored. I'm not going to get bored.
Well, I know that now. It's like, wow, I really could have saved my money, but.
And so with that, we want to look at 6 ways to make an extrovert relationship work.
Yes, so opposites can attract, and again, as we mentioned, it's important to have that balance. However, it is a work when you're talking about the dynamic between extrovert and an introvert, because how they recharge themselves and where they get their energy is diametrically opposed to one another. So how do you make that dynamic work when you have an individual where, again, they crave going out and being out and being social? That's where they draw their energy. And you have someone that is the complete opposite of that. Can the relationship work? The short answer is yes. But there are some steps and there are some things in place that need to be in order for that to work.
That's right. And will conflict show up? Absolutely.
Which is in every relationship.
Yes, you can be 2 introverts together, 2 extroverts together, ambiverts, omniverts. Conflict is going to show up because, again, that is just a natural part. And according to one of the gurus of relationships, they call him the Godfather, right, or the father of relationships. relationship research. Dr. Godman, he said that in relationships, there pretty much will be conflict. 69% of that conflict is going to be unsolvable, because some of those things we mentioned earlier, some of them are cultural, some of them are attached to our gene, all right, and how our genetic makeup, right, our belief systems. There's a lot of things that influence the uniqueness of how you show up. And so it's important for us in relationships. It's not a matter of trying to conquer all of the conflicts, but it's about what are we learning about ourselves in conflict, right? And then how can we partner? How can we make it a partnership?
And actually, what you just mentioned is the very first way that is noted as it relates to how to make an introvert extrovert relationship work, which is learning to deal with conflict. It's important to remember that conflict is natural and unavoidable in relationships. It doesn't matter whether you're an introvert and an introvert, or introvert and an extrovert, but introverts and extroverts deal with conflict differently. Introverts may face conflict regarding wanting alone time or not wanting to address conflict right away. Instead of wanting to process, introverts often value time to themselves and the ability to process internally before expressing things outwardly. And if an introverted person can express their needs and desire outcomes to their partner can be aware of this and not take it personally, but instead understand why the individual may sometimes need some space.
So if you are in a relationship, dating, married or not, and your partner absolutely says, okay, you said something, I'm upset right now, I need a time out, I need to go process this, and we can pick this conversation back up in another 2 hours. Allow that person that space to process. Allow the person time to process, especially if you are dating or married to an introvert. They need the time to process.
But it is absolutely important that you all deal with the issue.
Yes.
Do not allow yourselves to just move past it without going back and address it, because that type of behavior can begin to really drive a wedge in your relationship when you just begin to avoid that conflict and not addressing those issues and just moving past it rather than taking the time to really make sure you address
and
it.
It doesn't lead into avoidance when you say, no, I just needed 2 hours to process. Now, okay, I paused it. Now I'm going to unpause it and we're going to come back and we're going to discuss it. And we have a rule that with our clients, if you put the conversation on pause, then you have a responsibility to go back to the remote and unpause it and pick it back up. That is your responsibility in the relationship. Number two, when extroverts or introverts are in a relationship, the number two conflict that often shows up is in the area of communication. And so communication, we know, is key. And since introverts tend to rely on alone time to recharge, if the introvert is with an extrovert who tends to recharge with others, this might be perceived as withdrawal from the person. And pretty much we just talked about this. And so one thing it's important to do is have a journal. When you have an introvert and an extrovert that's in a relationship and they're really trying to communicate with one another, the extrovert wants to talk and process out loud. The introvert is sitting there trying to process everything. They're frustrated because the extrovert wants an immediate response. And they're like, no, I'm not going to give you an immediate response because I deserve respect and I want to think through my response. And so when the extrovert pushes, and the introvert was like, okay, we're going to do this. Now you're going to get it. You're going to get all of my thoughts, no filter, no chaser. You're going to get it all.
From today, yesterday, and however long y'all been in a relationship, and from their childhood.
Because the introvert remembers everything. So you're going to get it all. And I don't know that you can handle the depth of often what introverts carry and how they process and how they store that information. So give people what they need. You're an extrovert. You need to get it out. That's fine. Think through your responses, though. And both of you, extroverts, definitely sometimes if you just need to get it out, don't always get it out verbally. Write it in your journal.
Absolutely. And you're already hitting the nail on the head, because as we move into number 3, it's understanding the needs of your partner. So understanding that if your partner is an introvert, making sure that you allocate that time to them. And when they do press pause, giving them the courtesy of being able to determine how much time they need before they readdress it and not forcing the issue. And at the same time, if your partner is an extrovert, making sure that you have the courtesy of coming back and having that conversation to make sure that you address the issue. So it goes hand in hand with the previous 2 points of communicating and making sure that you're addressing conflict, because that's part of respecting one another and honoring your differences. And it means that you're respecting your partner's need if you're an introvert for that alone time and that processing time, and you're also respecting your extrovert's partners need to make sure that we're addressing and handling the issue at hand.
Yeah. All right. And number four says, don't try to change them.
Yes.
How many times have you read that or been told that? Don't try to change them. And you know what? You get in a relationship, it's all cool, and then you try to change them. Why? Any relationship, it's important to remember that the goal is not to change the person, but instead to understand each other's needs and support each other. Okay. And so we have to make sure we find value in the fingerprint. They are unique. They have a unique personality type, their DNA, their genetic makeup, all of that is unique for a reason. If you can't get to a place where you uniquely appreciate your partner, and all the diversity and uniqueness that comes along with them being who they are, then that's a challenge.
Yeah, and remember that trying to change someone is really a form of manipulation and control. And it really can be a sign of selfishness. Now, we understand that our partners, when you care about someone and you see they have potential, or you see that they have some habits and things that they may not necessarily need to be involved in, you want to push for the best for your partner, but you cannot force and manipulate them into doing that. The best way to do it is just to communicate that in a loving way, be honest and be forthright, and hold them accountable for what they say that they want to be. But you have to be very careful to make sure that you're not trying to mold your partner into who it is that you want them to be.
Absolutely. And that deserves the bell right there. And that is powerful. And you know what? That's one of the biggest conflicts we hear amongst couples. He's trying to change me. She's trying to change me. And really at that point, it goes back to a level of acceptance. Do you accept the authenticity of who this person is, right? And or do you have an agenda?
Absolutely. So number 5 is a very important one, and it's aligning goals in social settings. So making sure that before you go out, especially if you are an introvert and extrovert relationship, that you have a conversation of the goal and the rules of engagement before you get into those social settings. If there's a timeline, if Charmaine likes to call them, what are they, buzzwords or code words, as far as like, hey, we planning to be there for an hour, but if we get 15 minutes in and I say I really would like some marshmallows, that means it's time to roll out.
Okay, now we can't use that one no more because you just gave it to everybody. But no, you do need to have those PR statements. You need to have that out. You need to have those nonverbal signals. Maybe for you, it's when you grab your ear, or it's where you have some kind of nonverbal gesture that if you're dating an introvert and they're tired, they're challenged, or maybe you're dating an extrovert and the environment is just a little too dry for them. And first of all, consider each other, and sometimes you just have to push past that.
Absolutely.
Right. But if you both have this agreement that, okay, we're going to stay at least 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, 2 hours, and then we're going to start transitioning, have those agreements, have those goals, make sure you guys are clear. All right. And then our next one is number 6, find things to do together. Now, this is everything. I love how CEO Danielle and Hassani definitely encourage couples to make a list. Make a list for date night. I mean, what is your dream date night list? I mean, it's a great activity for couples to do. to ensure that you two are on the same page, that you're dreaming together, even if they're uniquely different. At least I have a list and you have a list. So you're not having to be a psychic.
Yeah, lists are so awesome because just like you said, it allows you to dream together.
Yes.
And also if you're spiritual, the Bible talks about writing the vision and making it plain. And so if you have a list and I have a list, now what we have are tangible goals. We have things that are in our mind and in our heart that we've actually now put down as something that we can touch, we can read, we can see it. And so that's a really powerful thing as a couple when you get to the place of being able to set goals and dream together. And so it's so important that, especially when you're in an introvert extrovert relationship, that you take the time to sit down and to strategize things, activities that you all could possibly do together that will unite you.
Absolutely. So again, tonight, we wanted you to just be able to identify that, first of all, you have a fingerprint and you have a footprint in your relationship. We want to make sure that you honor yourself and the uniqueness that you bring to the table. Make sure that you're honoring your spouse's uniqueness and what they bring to the table. And because of the uniqueness that you have individually, when you come together, that makes your relationship one of the most unique things walking around.
And bear in mind that you may be in a relationship with someone right now and you all are experiencing some challenges as it relates to getting on the same page. We would love to speak to you as your Couple Academy practitioners to help you all get into alignment, to learn how to interact with each other in positive and productive ways.
Yes.
So be sure to reach out to us at couplesacademy.org. Or, as Charmaine always likes to say, maybe you're in a relationship with yourself and you are seeking to learn and understand yourself better.
Right.
We do one-on-one individual coaching as well.
And Couples Academy, love Danielle. Have to give it up for our CEO.
That Enneagram.
Yes,
boy.
You must sign up to do an Enneagram session with Danielle where she goes all up in your business. Okay. She will tell you about yourself more than you knew about yourself. So sign up, get an Enneagram done. And if, again, you and your partner, man, you've been on kind of a slope lately, right? And you really want to gain a deeper level of understanding of who the two of you are, book a couple session where Danielle will, again, tell you two all about the ways in which you're compatible, your personality types, the culture, all of those different things that we mentioned in this show.
Absolutely.
And so definitely reach out to couplesacademy.org and book a session.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in to Before I Do. My name is Walter Jennings.
My name is Charmaine Jennings.
And it has been our honor to bring this show to you tonight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and tune in the same time next week for another edition of Before I Do. Hey, be sure to let other people know and recommend Before I Do. We enjoy doing this. These smiles are not fake. We really enjoy it. So listen, we will see you all next week. Good night, everybody.